You're with Julian on the Brown Note, and Roe versus Wade, the latest in the most dangerous extremist movement in America, called the Republican Party. People say that politics is polarized, as though the left and the right have become extreme. The left in America haven't changed position. They are still firmly in the same sort of lane they were in. Democrats aren't left-wing, they're centre-right, to me, as a lefty. But the idea that the left have become as polarised and extreme as the right is garbage. Because most of the ideals, equal rights for women and racial minorities, poor people having a living wage, action on climate change and environmental issues, they've always been part of the agenda of the left wing. They've not polarized to become, let's become communists. The right have just drifted further and further to the right with the help of right-wing media. The Republican Party in America weren't like this in the 1970s. They weren't anti-abortion. Guess who wasn't anti-abortion in the 70s? At the start of the 70s, the evangelical movement, led, I guess, by de facto Billy Graham, wasn't anti-abortion and wasn't involved in politics. It was at the end of that decade where a lot of very reactionary people with a lot of very big financial backers started to realize that there was this huge voting base in America, which was... Sorry, this whole story is about the Supreme Court and a leaked memo of the idea they're having to overturn Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade has always been a misnomer for me, because the 14th Amendment of the American Constitution applies to racial discrimination, gender, abortion. It doesn't mention any of those things. It just sort of prohibits any state government pretty much making laws that will do so. What they need is to explicitly mention things like race, gender, and abortion. And the Democrats in America can pass a federal law now to legalize abortion. They can do this. I think they have to pass a law banning the filibuster. The filibuster is where one politician versus 350 can stop a vote going through by talking all night. It's one of the most undemocratic things that they have in America. This is the thing. The Democrats aren't doing this because they believe that there is some sanctity to these things. Your opponents don't, mate. Your opponents will come in and trash those institutions the second they get the chance. If they feel it's against them to have the filibuster, they'll get rid of it. If it's for them to... When the next time they've got a majority in the Senate, they'll pass laws left, right and centre. They've already shown that they're no longer beholden to normal societal norms or political norms. So the Democrats can fix this scenario, but they're choosing not to, which is bad. So the Republicans have been pumping the Supreme Court full of ideologues. The Supreme Court was supposed to be the highest adjudicator in the land in America, which can make final decisions on laws. And the Republicans have instead turned it into their political football. Just like they have their truth, they have their version of justice. So they've got a stacked court. A man impeached twice, President Trump, was allowed to stack the Supreme Court in the most onerous ways possible. The two of the judges that he put in swore blind that they wouldn't try and repeal Roe versus Wade. They're now voting to repeal it. That should... Given that testimony in front of Congress, that should be sacrosanct. You should be able to impeach a Supreme Court judge that has literally gone against what they were saying within 2 years. So anyway, this is about the fact that Roe versus Wade was a bellwether, and it's always been the idea that even though more than 60% of Americans have supported a woman's right to an abortion for more than, I think, 4 decades, less than 30% oppose it. They are so noisy that they have never given up on repealing the Roe versus Wade verdict, which applied the 14th Amendment on civil rights or human rights onto women seeking abortion. Back in the 1950s, when it was illegal, about 2 million illegal abortions in America happened each year. So it's never ever been something that's banned. It's just been made illegal. And now it's become this bellwether. But the right wing of politics started to drift ever further right. Towards the end of the 70s, people like Reagan started drumming up enormous support amongst evangelical Christians who had hitherto not been anti-abortion and not been involved in politics. That still, even Ronald Reagan today would be rejected by the Trump wing of the Republican Party. They would see him as worse than Biden. The views of Republicans back then were nothing like the views of Republicans today. And I think this paradigm really started to decay and get cancerous with Bush and Cheney. When they came in, they pretty much didn't obey the rules of political governance at all. They overthrew a lot of the tenets that were previously upheld by both parties to become enormously partisan. These are the guys that started using private email servers. They didn't care about any of the rules. And in tandem with that, Fox News led to this intense extremism amongst the right wing of American politics and drumming up anger in this supporter base. And then you get the Tea Party, which was this ferment that was even further to the right than Fox News was, which has ironically dragged Fox News even further to the right. So they had their perfect storm with Obama. Obama came in and had a pretty rum time of it because he believed that he could reach out to the right of politics, not understanding that the right of politics in America had become an extremist organisation whose only goal was to oppose anything that Obama did. And now we've got to a point where it's likely that the Supreme Court in America should change because the Republican Party have destroyed it. It has now just become, we will get as many people that believe our view onto the panel as possible with no possibility for weighing of evidence or taking, the higher road anymore. You're there to vote against Roe versus Wade. That's it. And this is likely to lead to some form of destruction of the Supreme Court. It has ceased to serve its purpose as a final adjudicator and has become a political wing of the Republican Party. So they can either bypass it by passing laws codifying rights to abortion, which is split right down. Republican states want to get rid of it, even if their populations don't, and Democrat states want to protect it. So they need to make it a federal law. How do I feel about abortion? I did a whole piece on abortion, and this is it. When do we become a human being? Being a potential human being isn't being a human being. An egg is a potential human being. A sperm is a potential human being. A fertilized egg is nowhere closer to that other than by a factor of a second. The only reason that you believe otherwise is your religious belief, and you believe the same as I do, that no one should be able to force your religion on someone else. You believe that no one should be allowed to force their religion on you if it's different to yours. So that's the only reason at all to oppose abortion at this stage. You can then move forward to these things like a heartbeat and stuff like that. This is it. What constitutes being a human being is a consciousness attached to a central nervous system. That happens around 28 weeks into a fetus's gestation, when a fully developed, well, not fully developed, but a functionally developed brain is attached to a central nervous system and functioning organs. Having a heartbeat when it's not doing anything isn't a functioning organ. Saying that it's pulsing a little bit isn't a functioning human being. It's when there is a contiguous conscious brain attached to a central nervous system after 28 weeks. Virtually every single country that has abortion laws has them up to 24 weeks. There is no moral argument here. You're not killing a baby. It's not a person any more than having a heart in transit to someone else being kept artificially alive is a person. What's a person? And I believe the same as religion about what's a person. It transcends your physical being. It's really what happens after you're born. It's your entirety of yourself. It's not your physical blood and guts. It's just not. But before that brain's attached to organs that are actually functioning, it is literally a collection of cells. And if you believe that at one point it has the potential to be a human, and therefore at any point it does, you basically believe a baby at 24 weeks and 1 day old fetus are the same thing, and they're not. So I'm totally and utterly for any reason at all abortion up until 24 weeks, which is pretty much all that anyone asks. And the caveat here is, if you do have a religious conviction where you're against it, don't get one. And that is it. That's the full gamut here. So it's not even an issue that has become solely about abortion. It's become the bellwether. It's become the bellwether for this incredibly right-wing and reactionary part of America that is now behind Catholic Latin America on the issues of same-sex marriage and abortion and transgender rights. Countries in Latin America are powering ahead of America here. America is the only Western nation that is massively regressing rather than progressing. The Republican Party has done nothing but damage to America since the year 2000. They've not helped their people in any way, shape or form. They are acting like a massive brake on the country. It would have been far better had the American Civil War let the southern states actually form their own country, because they haven't done anything for America since apart from drag it down. And it's not the whole part of the South, it's the reactionary right-wing politicians and media outlets that are doing it to this day. So it's become this bellwether to turn back the tide of the 1960s. It very much is anti-women. It has nothing to do with babies. You're talking about the only developed nation in the world with no paid maternity leave. You're talking about a country that absolutely does not mind charging bankrupt fees for healthcare, especially of mothers or of women giving birth, where they can charge them $60 to hold their own baby. You think this is about looking after a mother and child from a godly sense. It's a weather vane for these people to attack Roe versus Wade. They'll never stop attacking. So the Democrats stop the filibuster and make abortion federally legal.